Well, holy shit. I actually managed to do it. After procrastinating for ages, I finally managed to produce an audiobook version of the Lunatic Fringe book. It's currently available on all Amazon sites, audible.com, and shortly on iTunes. And if you're the page-turning type, it's also, of course, still available in Kindle form, paperback, and hardback on Amazon. 10 hours and 10 years worth of Blue Skies Magazine's articles, all available to you right fucking now, including a few author's notes and even an apology or two. Enjoy.
In a world.
Mate, hold up. We said we're done with the serious intros.
Who said?
Well, we did.
I don't remember that.
Well, I said it, and you're me, so, you know.
Well, I don't care. In a world.
Hey, I told you. We're keeping it light.
You do it on your own then.
Well, technically, I already am. So, anyway. Fuck yeah. Pure wild flight. Get it down ya. How good? Visit nzaerosports.com.
I get to do the next one.
Well, obviously, you moron. We both do.
I was 19, broke, unemployed, and sold my girlfriend's canopy for drug money. So, I thought I better sew her a new one. What a sentence, and what a story. This describes the humble yet outrageous beginnings of NZ Aerosports, the home of Icarus canopies, in the words of our founder himself. From getting a paratrooper toy from his mom, watching parachutes at the DZ as a 6-year-old, jumping off the wharf with a parachute made from bed sheets, doing his first jump at 16, sewing his first canopy on a borrowed machine at 19, and starting to sell parachutes out of a garage in 1986, Paul Gyro Martin had an undying love for the sky. Our company started with one man with the wildest of spirits and a true blue sky dream, a renegade. In the time that Gyro created and ran the Icarus Canopies brand until he passed away in 2017, he pushed everything he had to its limits. We miss him, and we always will. Gyro is the next generation of NZ Aerosports. It honors our founder, of course, because it was the name we all knew him by, but Gyro the rebrand also marks the start of a new chapter, our next jump. Gyro is the space between sound and silence, art and science, chaos and calm. Gyro is a state of epic tranquility that transcends understanding. That moment, in the door, in freefall, mid-swoop, where nothing but the present exists. A perfect balance of euphoria and thrill. Gyro captures our passion for flying and our commitment to designing break-the-fucking-rules canopies that deliver pilots pure, wild flight.
Coming straight from the cockpit, it's another episode of Lunatic Fringe with the fucking pilot.
Ready, set, go. Back in the can for another edition of Lunatic Fringe Into the Void, and a long-awaited podcast for me. Straight into it, man. Who the fuck are you and what do you do?
I'm Jeff Provenzano. I jump out of planes.
You do jump out of planes, man. You do as well. And I am so happy to see you on the other side of this screen. So I know it's only early afternoon for you, but it's late for me. So cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah. Great seeing you. So look, a lot of people that are listening know exactly who they are. They follow your escapades and all the amazing stuff that you're putting out and all the stuff that you've done for a long, long time now. But I like to get the backstory. I want to know how it all began and kind of your path to where you are now. So how did you get started in really anything extreme, not just necessarily jumping?
Yeah, I think it's always just been in my nature. You know, as a little kid, I drove my parents crazy. You know, my dad told me one time that he would catch me like no matter where I jumped from. And he came home one day and I was standing on the roof. It was only one floor, but you know, I mean, it wasn't like a, you know, multiple floor building or anything, but I was like, I'm like, hey, you ready to catch me? You know, he was like, no, go climb back in the window, go back into the house. And I don't remember that actually. I just hear them tell me the story of that all the time. But yeah, I think it's just kind of in my blood, a little bit of a little bit of an adventurous and
Is it a family thing? Like our mom and dad adventurous
oh,
types?
definitely not mom and dad. Maybe, my grandfather from my mom's side, he was a bit of, he was into adventurous stuff. Like he, raced motorcycles, rode horses, and that was kind of the extent of it in general. But yeah, my parents are both not extreme. My dad, like, he's athletic. He was into sports as a kid, soccer, golf, for most of his life, also like really good golfer too. And my mom's an artist. She paints, so
Well, that might
yeah,
explain some of the creativity and some of the stunts that you're doing.
definitely. I went to art school and I always tell people, like, oh, you still do art? I'm like, totally. I live a very creative lifestyle.
Which is, yeah, it's absolutely true. I mean, the one that stood out for me in relatively recent past was you swooping the cranberry ponds.
Yeah.
And all I could think is, who the fuck comes up with that? But it was so badass.
Well, it's like very few ideas are really originally your own, It's like you see something from somewhere and you adopt it and like tweak it. And I saw another RedBull athlete. His name is Brian Grubbs. He's a wakeboarder, wake skater, like foil guy, like just waterman, like badass waterman all around. And he did a wake project that, they just set up some pulleys across that thing and he was ripping across the pond. This is probably like 10 years ago. And it's just always stuck in my head. And I just was driving one day, I was driving to the wind tunnel and I just was thinking about it. And I was like, I'm just going to give Brian a call and just be like, yo, dude, where did you do that? Like, give me the skinny. Who is it? And he was like, oh, dude, Farmer Steve, I'll connect you. He's the man. And literally, like, I was talking to Farmer Steve like an hour later and he's like, yeah, let's do it. He's like, totally willing to like, work with you, have you come out and do this. And he schooled me on the whole, the season of it and when and how and what and all the details. And we basically, yeah, we made it happen like later that year. But the idea came from a wakeboard video I saw of Brian just like ripping these things across cranberries. And it's like, man, I want to swoop that one day.
It was cool as shit, man. I mean, the shit that you have to learn about in your sport of skydiving, because I want to say I'm in the same sport as you, but it's definitely different levels.
I mean, probably like on a skill wise, we're doing very much a similar thing. I do have incredible like opportunities to do things a little bit outside of the box.
Sure.
And a lot of that is just, yeah, it's been from, being with Red Bull for all these years and just kind of tying into just doing projects and these like one-off unique things.
Sure.
It's kind of turned itself into like a full-time thing. Like, okay, what else, like weird thing, weird place, what else can I do? Where else can I go?
Sure.
And it's kind of created that. But I feel that, I'm doing the same thing as we're all doing at the drop zone. And a lot of times I just get to do it in very unique places.
Sure. Now, speaking of drop zones, where did you get started and how did you get started? Like, where did the idea come to make that first jump?
Point Break, 1991. I was like,
yes,
I was like 12, I don't know, 13, something like that. Saw Point Break, and was just like, whoa, just all things cool about that and wanted to do it, just a 13-year-old mind. I was like skateboarding and doing all that stuff at that age. So I was just like, we got to jump out of a plane. And me and my buddies, like my group of friends, we talked about it over the years. Like throughout high school, we would talk about it. And, this is before internet, before like you saw images of skydiving everywhere.
Right.
It's like Point Break and maybe a couple movies, maybe once in a while you'd see it on a commercial, on regular like TV, not streaming or anything like that. And yeah, I mean, that just planted the seed. That really did. And we kept talking about it year after year. It would just kind of come up. And when we all turned 18, we're like, it's time. Let's do it.
Right.
And so, I lived in New York. I was born and raised in New York, just outside New York City in Westchester County. And not far from us was Skydive the Ranch in upstate in New Paltz. So a little bit farther north from where I'm from. And, we found it in the Yellow Pages. and just kind of went up there. I didn't really think anything more like past that day. At the time, I was like, we're going to do this.
Sure.
Like, one time, check, like check the box off.
Right. Now,
So,
I got to ask you, I'm a Point Break guy myself. Same thing. It was Point Break in the movie Drop Zone of the two that hooked me.
Yes.
Point Break, the original or the remake?
Oh, the original.
Thank you.
Mean, 100%. The stunts in the remake are pretty cool. It kind of got lost in the whole quality of the movie and the story, though.
Yeah.
But the stunts were definitely hands down amazing, especially all the aerial stunts that, some of my teammates did.
Sure.
They were super rad, but yeah, the storyline on the remake was just the character. Right. It was a little cheesy. I was like, you guys.
Yeah, they lost the plot, man. That first one had me by the balls, and the only saving grace to the second one is, like you, I knew a few of the crew that were doing some of the jumps. So, I mean, props to the stunts were fucking epic. But
yeah, I think they should have taken more of like the Top Gun approach to the sequel. Like Tony Keanu, yeah, he's older. Maybe he's like, the chief now, and there's another young guy coming up, and he's getting pulled. Like maybe go like Top Gun Maverick direction, not like, oh, we're gonna kind of just like redo it and try to like, because they tried plugging in like some cheesy lines from the original one, and I was like, oh no, that just didn't work. Why did you have to like repeat that line? Like, can't repeat that line. Like,
sure. I think most skydivers that are like you and me that got hooked by that movie feel exactly the same way. It was just and
it was a big population of us, man. I mean, that was like, there was an influx of tandems after that movie came out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So you go out and you make your first jump at the ranch. Did you land, and were you like, fuck yes, this is for me? Or was it just, that was cool?
No, I was blown away. And my tandem instructor, he was Steve Utah. He was on a backup load. He was like, hey, don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. I got to do another tandem. I was like, cool. So he pretty much like, ran off from the landing area. And I'm just like, I need a minute. And I went for this walk. Like, I just disappeared. Nobody knew where I went. And like, where was it? And I went for like 20, 30-minute walk because he was back down on the ground already from his next jump. And I came walking in, and I walked straight up to the school, and I was like, I got one question. Like, what's next? And they're like, oh, you're AFF, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, I'm like, how much is that? And they're like, $200 or whatever it was. And okay, I got to deliver, X amount of pizzas. Like, cool, sign me up for 2 weeks. I'll be back in 2 weeks. And I knew at that point, this was something that I was going to do more of.
Sure.
I still hadn't thought like I'd, turn it into what it is now, or even I remember looking at that log book, and it was like that student log book. It has like enough pages for like 100 jumps. And I remember looking at that being like, yeah, I might not even fill this thing up,
Sure.
But I knew I had to do more jumps at that point.
Now, what was the plan for life before that first jump?
Yeah, I was in art. I was going to art school in New York City, and it was really just the dream of, getting that job in New York, creating art, and just like living that like romantic, like artist life of New York City, poor, and, just chasing dreams and, whatever. That was definitely more of the lines, and just continuing to pursue skateboarding and snowboarding at that time in my life. I was skating a lot. I had a shop sponsorship. I was getting like free decks. I mean, I can go out, break my skateboard, go to the skate shop, and they slap a new deck on there and
sure,
have fun, man. So it was like, it was just fun, free stuff that I was getting, shoes and t-shirts and stuff.
Well, I mean, I guess the stepping away from the poor artist in New York style to become the poor skydiver traveling the world was a pretty good swap.
I was like, yeah, it was even like, well, it was like probably like swapping it out for a poorer lifestyle, because there wasn't a lot of ways to make money on the drop zone.
Sure.
And I think the first year that I graduated school, fast forward a little bit, I graduated school, I had pursued skydiving as much as I could during those summer times of college.
Sure.
And then I'm like, cool, I'm going to move to Skydive, Arizona. I graduated. I'm going to move there for like a year, take a year off. I'll come back to New York soon. Don't worry. Get that art job. Don't worry, mom and dad. Like, and yeah, I mean,
it takes over, doesn't it?
It really does. It did. It just, it did take over. But anyway, back to my original thing was just that I wanted to say, like, that first year I moved there, I packed parachutes. I think I made $19,000. Like, how did I live on that and jump? And I don't know.
Right.
I have no idea. Number sticks in my head. It might have been a little more. I don't know. But the number $19,000. I remember when I did my taxes, the very first time in my life, I had to do taxes. And I remember that number. And it was like, man, how do you live off of that?
Right. Right. So, I mean, that begs the question.
The jumps were $10. They were $10 jumps. You got a discount if you're a full-time staff. I had a free living, basically. Like, you park a trailer for free. So, yeah, I was like, there was a lot less expenses too, a lot less overhead.
Well, and you're a kid at the time, right? So you can justify 19 grand and living in a trailer on the drop zone a hell of a lot more than you could if you're still doing that in your 30s.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So yeah. You're packing parachutes. You made $19,000. You're wondering, how the fuck do I survive on this? Where did the transition come into? Where did you go from that to this? I mean, where did you shift gears and it kind of became its own thing?
I think it just slowly evolved. It was just kind of like this slow process, because at that time it didn't feel like anything it was moving fast enough. I had the dreams and, wanted to jump more. The dream was just to jump more, right? You hear the plane going up and down all day long. And my dream was just like, I want to be in that. I need to be in that. I didn't care about the competitions or or like all these things that are going on. I just needed to be in that plane.
Sure.
So that was the main goal. But the whole transition from that to this, I mean, it was like this long process, a lot of steps in between. Like I said, it just felt like it was never changing at some points. It just felt some ways like I was in that trailer forever,
Sure.
And, but the cliff notes was like, pack more, jump, tandem videos, coaching. And then, like, kind of mixed in there too, is like starting to like dabble with free fly competitions and that sort of thing. But free fly competitions being on a free fly team, we all know on a team is tough. Scheduling, logistics of being on a team is tough. And you just need more support, right? You need a lot more support. You need to train. You need a jump totally dedicated with your team to go train that thing. And right around that time, I was playing with that, but it wasn't, I wasn't winning anything. I didn't have the support, we weren't on the teams and all that. But right around that same time, I was doing tandem videos and coaching. So I was like being paid and being paid to be in the air. And what do you do every time when you jump? You land. So you're like, oh, I'm practicing swooping. And I'm like excelling in that, really, because I was always looking, like most tandem video guys to this day, they love that swoop. They love their landing, because that moment is theirs. They did this jump, they film, they don't check. Now they're just doing their thing, And so right around that time, swoop competitions started to evolve, like the modern day, like swoop competition.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, I can do that. Like, I'm training all the time for that. So that was the transition from like, kind of like the pack and mat, so to say, to like athlete type stuff.
Now, would this be when like the PST tour was still going, or okay,
tour, exactly.
All right, cool. Then
tour, Pro Swoop Tour, the RedBull Tour, the European Swoop Tour. It evolved. Like, not that first year it was just Pro Swoop Tour, but soon after it just evolved into like there was 3 tours going on, and they all were scattered around Europe and America for the most part. And yeah, I mean, you stayed busy. All of a sudden, I'm like you're going to, 20, 30 competitions a year. And then during the busy months, you're basically like I remember one summer just being in Europe for a comp, back in the States for a comp, back in Europe for a comp, back in the States for a comp, like, and then you're like bouncing around the States for like 3 weeks and back to Europe for a comp. It was
Sure.
nuts.
Well, that would
It
have
was,
been most likely when our paths crossed, because I was out at Cross Keys when the PST tour would come through Wildwood. So if you ever did Wildwood,
I
we
did. Yeah.
yes. So our paths
I ate
probably.
shit on the beach on a landing there.
Oh,
I
what a
clipped one of the gates, my lines, and I just like it was like the first gate too. I like clipped it, like soft sand, everything. I just like it wasn't even like horrific looking. I have it on video. It was just like I clipped it and I just came to a stop and stood up. It was like the weirdest thing ever. And I was like, whoa, what just happened?
saw
And
some
everyone was
cool
like, you
shit. Saw some
okay? I'm
cool shit
like,
and some great wipeouts in Wildwood. I saw at least two guys snag a seagull in the lines going across that
oh
pond.
yeah. Yeah. And then one of the judges got snagged in the zone accuracy by some lines and it flipped her, I remember.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was like, oh man. But yeah, JC hit a bird. JC
Yes.
Folklation hit a bird at Wildwood. I'll never forget that.
Well, and he towed him
First
through the
time
whole towed that bird through the entire course.
it like got tangled, right?
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Right. Yeah.
I'll never forget that. Well, and I was I
Yeah.
was doing tandems at Wildwood, so I was rolling out of the helicopter when John would fly the Alouette and land on the beach there. And what a fucking place to jump, because you're in between a roller coaster and a Ferris wheel and the boardwalk, and it was just, I mean, what an epic spot.
Yeah. And I think that was kind of the beginning of like, wouldn't it be cool if you could just go and just swoop all over the world into different places?
Did
That
I
was kind
not
of
just
that idea.
I think I just saw a video of you randomly. It's just you. There's no crowd, swooping into a canal and just kind of doing a head dive into the water next to nobody? Or was that you? Or because I've seen so many videos, you going in between boats and you in canals and you in the cranberries and
Yes. Oh, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, I just did. I think I threw. Was it like not a canal, but like a row of boats?
yeah.
Maybe. I think I just posted that. Like it. That was that happened a few years ago, but I just recently posted a version of it, a
Oh,
view of
fair
it.
enough.
So
So
yeah, it was in Croatia. Yeah, that was cool.
when you started
But
doing the swooping and everything and then you're competing and you're traveling all around the world, is something like Red Bull even on the radar at that point, or did Red Bull kind of come out of the blue, or did you pursue it?
well, no, I was kind of in the right time at the right place. Early days of Red Bull. There was very few Red Bull athletes across all sports. But I was living up in Lake Tahoe, and yeah, I mean Shane McConkey was based up there,
Yeah.
and he was the first North American Red Bull athlete. And so, Red Bull had a big presence in Tahoe at that time. They were like,
Was
they
this
were always
Wes?
there.
This was Wes's drop zone?
No, so it was before that. It was before Wes had a drop zone in Tahoe. It was in North Lake Tahoe. It was north of Truckee. It
Oh,
was
yeah,
just called
yeah.
that, but it was Charles Bryan and Mike Vale.
That's right.
A couple of the OG godfathers of the sport of like
Hell yeah.
modern skydiving. And they had this sick little drop zone. We didn't even have a creeper on it. There was no RW there. It was free fly only. The only belly jumps you did was AFF, and then like your first jump was like would take you out head down. Like your graduation jump. If you're a good student, you'd probably take you out head down on your level 8 or whatever it was. If you were like one of those really like this guy's blazing through AFF, he did 2 levels in one jump. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna take you head down on the last jump. So yeah, it was a cool free fly only drop zone up there in Tahoe. And yeah, Red Bull was just around. And then, there was a guy, Frank Gambale. He was a base jumper.
Yeah, I met Frank.
He was jumping with Red Bull parachutes. And it just he brought in Mike and Charles and Mike started to like jump into like Red Bull parties in Tahoe with Red Bull parachutes. not a real structured program at that time by any means. It was very, bandit style. I don't even know if those guys were getting permissions to do any of that stuff at that time. I was like, can you jump in this party? Yeah, jump in. And then they slowly brought in like John DeVore, and then, it kind of grew. It started to become more of a team. And this is like maybe 2000-ish, 2001, 2. And I saw it on the radar and I saw it was a thing to do. And I didn't really think of anything of the time. And even when I first got off, so I was in with the whole family of Red Bull at that time. And at some point, I want to say like 05-ish, 06, maybe 05, 06, they asked me, they're like, hey, you want to be part of Red Bull? And that was the peak of swoop comps days.
Right.
It was more comps than you can count on your hands and toes and whatever. And I was like, I told, I remember like, oh, you want to do this? And I was like, nah, I can't, I'm too busy. Like, because it just wasn't what it was still what it is now. Like, nah, because I was really like, all I wanted to do was compete. And they were like, yo, that's totally cool. Give us a call when you're ready. And I didn't really think much of it. I just was like, yeah, no, I'm good. And then a few years later, I remember I was burnt out on the swoop comps. Now I remember sitting on a plane or a helicopter actually in Russia. And I remember just being like, I don't want to be here. I'm done. I'm over this. Like, I do not want to be in this like emotional roller coaster of winning and losing. And I'm only happy if I win now. And like half the time you can't win every time. So you're not going to be happy all like, I was like, I'm over this. I'm like, went home, called Red Bull. I'm like, hey, is that offer still up? Can I do it? Like, let's do this. And they're like, yeah, well, we're in the middle of the year, but yeah, we'll start, we'll get you on and start using you and we'll get you on next year. So
that's awesome.
So it was a 2-year gap between when I first was offered a position with them. And then when I officially was like, let's do this, was like 2008, I think.
Nice.
Was the official like, yo, let's go.
Well, of course, anybody listening now is like, he fucking said no to Red Bull.
I know, right? Yeah, I said no to Red Bull, man. It just went, yeah. But we didn't, before social media still, before all of that,
Sure.
So
now with Red Bull, I've talked to a couple of Red Bull athletes and asked them kind of how Red Bull works, and I'm sure your experience is quite similar, but are they guiding you towards specific stunts that they want to see, or is it just you're coming up with ideas and sending them the plans?
When it comes to stunts, we're the ones coming up with the ideas of the stunts. The things that they will come at us and be like, can you jump into this event? Can you land here? Can you do something at this? What can we do into this event? And they'll come up to us sometimes from that kind of angle.
Sure.
But usually when it's something very like stunt oriented or, just athlete project based. I mean, that the athlete projects come from the athletes.
Sure. Well, I just saw one that was,
and we're the experts. They're not,
of course,
they're, and they'd say that they're like, you guys are the experts. We're not,
well,
like
I love that they mix so many of the sports too, because like one of the ones that you recently posted was the helicopter going inverted, hucking a base jumper off to a swooper with a plane carving around it, all filmed, I'm assuming, with whatchamacallit,
a drone.
a drone. And it was so obviously well scripted and planned out and fucking epic. I mean, you're just all over the place going, holy shit, where is this going next? That it drew you in to want to watch it from start to finish, because you're like, I have no idea what happens next.
Yeah. No, that was super fun. That was a super fun project to work on. I fly drones. I have like little, FPV setups, and I got into FPV flying, and I just, so I was always watching the videos. I'm like, geeking out online, seeing all these like really good FPV guys. And I hadn't really met anybody in that community up until that point, when started to meet some really good drone pilots. And like right around that time too, the one shot idea was kind of like a thing. right? These like long, elaborate, 1 minute. And it was when you were capped at 1 minute still on Instagram or whatever, like that was your time limit of a video of a post.
Sure.
So you're like, okay. So I had that idea, like, well, we need to do something that's just kind of like bang, 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 all these like, one thing after another after another. And yeah, that was, the idea came pretty easy. The hardest part was actually convincing Aaron, the helicopter pilot, like, no, man, we're just gonna have a drone like flying around your rotors and it's gonna be cool. Don't worry. He's not gonna like, I mean, if it hits the rotors, like, yeah, you're probably, that's not a good day, but like, don't worry. I'm sure it'll be fine. And he wasn't too into that, so we found ways, eventually we figured out a way, we got all together. We had like everybody involved in that really like coming together and then working out all the details of like how we can create a sequence. And it started with like, okay, it'll start with the helicopter because like the drone can easily track him, find him, and then just trail him from a very safe distance. So that was like, okay, Aaron felt a little warm and fuzzy. He's like, all right, cool. Yeah, all right, we'll do that one. So it starts with the roll, Luke popping off the skids during the barrel roll. And then Aaron's gone. And then he's like, he's safe. No drone crashed into his rotors, and and that was the hardest part, was convincing
Sure.
the helicopter that
Well, I know
drone
you've
guy is
done
cool.
you've done a lot of stuff that involve drones shadowing you. Does it make you nervous having a drone zipping around you? Because I mean, you're moving.
No, yeah, I mean, it is a good question, and it's super, you should be. But just like you put trust in your teammates, if you're following your teammate and you're not really focusing like where you are, you're just like focusing on the tail of his wing or his wings, whatever, so you're putting a lot of trust into someone to like, we're going to land right where we need to land, or we're going to, fly wingsuits and open right where we need to open because we're over downtown, wherever, you put that trust into the person who's doing that job. And that's just part of the, having a good team. And that's why that one shot worked, was like, just the all-star roster of people, including the drone pilot, which I had been flying with. We had done some stuff in California. He's, learning me, learning landings and just learning how to follow and not just follow, how to find you in the sky was like the first thing. It's like, all right, never found a parachute. So just like figuring out safe ways to get to me without like all the other, crashing into anyone else or any of that stuff. Just like working out a lot of the details with him, and then doing more in Arizona with him. And, through that process, learning all the rules of drones and, waivers and, all that stuff, like the legalities of it, which, it's just paperwork, just like setting up a demo, but you just got to apply for permits and things like that. And, kind of like learning that stuff in the process. And then just while we were flying and practicing together, I was building confidence in that drone pilot.
Sure.
So I've worked with three guys, but two of them, they kind of work in tandem. So they're like a team. And then another dude that I work with. So yeah, this guy, Sammy FPV, I got Nico FPV, and then Ewan, who is kind of like a partner with Sammy. So
nice.
Really just two separate guys, but I've got a lot of confidence in them, and they're really good and they're amazing. And like, yeah, can something happen? Of course, there's always a risk, right, of something. And definitely I've thought about it. I've even thought about it mid-turn. Like, don't think about that right now. Like the thought pops in your head and you're like, like, yeah, nothing you can do about that at this point, but yeah, I don't want one of those things going through my canopy or my lines at 300 feet.
No,
right?
no.
Just roll out of your turn or something, like, no, bad timing. So,
well, the stuff that you guys are able to get, the incredible footage that's getting out there and the visuals that people are seeing non-jumpers, people that aren't in the sport, that are for the first time seeing the sport kind of through our eyes because of the drones, are just giving this incredible footage that's going out to the masses. And I'm wondering, is it images like that and some of the stunts and events that you guys are doing, is that giving you access to more and more? Because I mean, I see you doing a lot of urban stuff as well that not that long ago you just didn't see, because people get the fuck away from our buildings. This shit doesn't happen here, so it's got to be giving you better access. No,
I wouldn't say so, actually. No, that
right.
was just Panama. I mean, we were just recently in Panama, and just different rules in South America, Central America. Sorry, but also, just like you go south of the border, and it's just different rules. I wouldn't say it's given us more access. I mean, we've been doing things through buildings and doing demos into downtowns, and going tight lines through things like that for a long time. I think the images that are coming out are much different now, but I don't think it's given us more access. If anything, it's kind of, you got to be more careful, because you're always just this close to just getting in trouble. Because everything's being filmed. Sometimes you just, you're pushing the limits of yourself, and you're maybe not thinking, like, you're thinking more survivability, right? You're not thinking like, oh, I gotta follow the rules here, right? You're like in the moment, right?
Right.
I'm thinking like instinct kicks in, right? I'm not even thinking like, just this instinctive, and the instinct is surviving. It's not like following a little rule or a technicality in some cases. So I think, having everything filmed all the time is, if anything, it's probably hurting us than enabling us, I do think, though, having these images where it's enabling is just like the next generation, right? It's accelerating the evolution. It's just like the kid that grew up never seeing someone do a 360, and then now they're just watching dudes doing 1080s all day long. That's normal. They're gonna start doing like the 1400s. Normal. It's just that evolution of being used to, and just having that in your mind, like, this is possible. Versus
it's a bit of a double-edged sword, though, right? Because it's showing a lot of guys and girls that might not be ready for that next step. It's getting them to try and maybe push their limits a little too hard to get the cool video.
Yeah, but I think it's always been that. That's always been the case relative to that. There's always been some dude on the DZ that's like doing something, and like the newbie is like, that, like, I'm gonna do that. And then, so I think it's kind of, it's all relative. And it's been going on since I was a student.
And it always will. Now, I see the wedding ring. You're a family man. How does...
That was my right hand, actually.
Oh, is it?
This is an Aura ring.
Oh, I thought it was a wedding ring. All right.
There's just like, there's like some sensors, and it measures like all sorts of, mainly it's heart rate, motion, and O2, the green light. I think it like measures your O2 saturation of your...
All right. Fair enough.
Whatever. Well, it just tracks. It just tells you how good or bad you slept, which you probably could just know. If you wake up feeling good, you probably slept good. And if you wake up feeling tired, you probably slept pretty tired. But, I like diving into a little bit more of the science behind it, and it keeps me accountable. You go to sleep earlier. But yes, I am a family man, though. I am a family man. I'm not a married man, but I am a family man. My girlfriend has 3 kids at home, and we live together, and very much so. It's a very real relationship, and we've been together for over 4 years. We hung out in COVID, and COVID created our relationship.
COVID, the ultimate test.
It was like, she's living in New York. I was in Arizona at the time, and she's like, so you're gonna quarantine in Arizona, or are you gonna get your butt over here and quarantine with me in New York? And I was like, see you in 3 days. Well, 3 days because it was still zombie. I was not getting on an airplane, so I had to drive to New York, you know?
Nice.
So I was like, yeah, I'll see you in 3 days. I packed the car, drove, threw my dog in the back. Like, let's go. We're going.
COVID
And
formed a lot of relationships, man. I had moved in with my girlfriend. I want to say 5 days before we locked down in Dubai. And in Dubai, we had a proper fucking lockdown. Like, it was close your doors, get a pass from the police to go to the supermarket lockdown for a couple months. So when we survived that and came out the other side still doing pretty good, I'm like, I gotta fucking marry this woman because we didn't kill each other. So COVID is a part of the reason why I'm married.
nice.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
it
it created relationships or it definitely destroyed a lot.
Oh, it was such a strange time. And I mean, everybody's got their stories, but I remember thinking, fuck, man, I went from, just trying to adjust to living with a new person with work and everything to not being able to leave the house. And I think we were 3 weeks into the lockdown, and I'm standing on my balcony at like 10:30 in the morning, drinking a Patron XO cafe in my underwear, talking to my Muslim neighbor during Ramadan. And it dawns on me, I'm like, dude, I'm sorry that I'm naked and drinking alcohol in front of you. He's like, I don't fucking care. Weird days, man. Weird days. So with everything that's gone on and all the amazing stuff that I see you putting out, is there any really big things coming up on the horizon? Have you got any noteworthy stuff?
Yeah, I'm not going to the moon or anything that big, but I've got a couple cool projects, a couple that are happening soon. I hate to talk about them, and
Sure.
spoil any of them. They involve swooping, I'll tell you that. So, one coming up here next month. It's a smaller project, but it's just been a lot of planning. It'll appear on the final side of it. You'll never know the work that went involved for permitting and all this stuff, but it's been in the works since before COVID.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, and that one's happening in about a month. Then I have one that's slated for this year. We don't have dates yet, and it's been like kind of a 2-year project, but the first year was really just scouting and doing all the groundwork and just traveling to all these locations to find areas. And so hopefully we're gonna kick that off in October.
Nice.
And that'll be like multiple days. That's a bigger project, bigger production crew following me around. So bigger than anything I've done up to date. So
oh, wow.
It's just me though. That's the thing. Like, it's like my project. It's like my project. Like, we've done some pretty big projects as a team.
Sure.
But so it's the level of some of those, but it's just like the Jeff Rowe show.
Sure. Do you get that the hard come down after a big project? Because I mean, so much time goes into some of these projects. Do you find when it's done, you're sitting around just kind of, oh, it's over?
No, actually, no, I don't really, because there's always just something else about to kick off, right?
Nice.
Like, the regular day-to-day is keeping you busy. I don't feel that so much or at all after the project. A lot of times I'm just happy it's done,
Sure.
Because it gets to a point. Sometimes, you're just, you're burning it down on both ends to make it happen. And, you're just running at 120%. And, not necessarily on the jumping side either, but, the meetings, the emails, this, that, the traveling, all the other logistics of whatever goes into like creating a project or a special jump. But I think my big come downs are really just when I can't jump. Like injuries. Injuries are tough.
Have you dealt with a lot of injuries?
A handful. Recently, I've dealt with a couple back-to-back ones, but over the grand scheme of things, like the amount of years that I've been jumping, it's like barely, a fraction of the time really I've spent injured. But this last year, I've spent back-to-back broken shoulder, 3 months, not even really recovered. I started jumping just because I was like, I gotta jump, pushing myself, and then I had so much focus and attention into my shoulder. I wasn't like warming up any other part of my body. And then on a jump, I detached my hamstring, full
Oh,
detached hamstring. Yeah,
fuck
tore right
me.
off my bones. Yeah. so that was surgically repaired, clamped back onto my tailbone or my sit bones. And just been coming back from that. And I'm, it's 6 months. I've got an amazing team, amazing PT care, like everything, like the team behind me through my recovery. And we just did some testing 2 days ago here. I'm at RedBull actually right now at the training facility here. And we did some testing, and great news that like my hamstring is like so much better. It's so much stronger, all yada, yada, yada. But it's still some work to go to get 100%. So like go to like full sprints, full max, like loading it to the max. So, but
Sure.
I'm back to normal shape. Like I feel good. I'm squatting what I was squatting before the injury. So it's kind of a deceiving injury. Like like I feel good. I feel like I should be good. But then when you talk to the scientists in the lab over there, they're like, you're not quite ready yet. Like, they're like, well, your tendon, the stiffness and this and that. They're like, oh, science.
Dude, I feel for you, man. I back in 2009, I detached my bicep. And
Oh,
it's a strange feeling. I can't even imagine what it's like for a hamstring, but with the bicep, it was just the weirdest thing. It was a very brief, incredibly intense pain, and then the muscle just was doing shit it wasn't designed to do. Didn't hurt anymore. It just was doing some weird stuff. So,
same. I didn't have a lot of pain from the hamstring. I didn't even feel it pop.
oof,
Yeah, I didn't feel any of that, and it was just like my leg just wouldn't work, and it was just like weird, and I was like, it felt sore, but it wasn't like pain. It wasn't like sharp. It wasn't anything like that. The recovery of it sucked though. Getting it
sure.
reattached and being bed, just having to be laying flat for 3 or 4 weeks was ah,
Yeah, yeah,
your leg, it's like everything. It's like, you can't walk, right? You're just like, I can't bend my hip at all. Like I can't raise my knee at all. Like you have to stay straight and lay flat, right?
sure.
It's like, that was tough. That was
Yeah,
tough.
I can imagine. Now, so you said you're at the RedBull facility. So
Yeah,
what they really take care of their athletes.
they really do. I mean, yeah, they really do. I love Red Bull. And I love my Red Bull family. I really do, man. I mean, I've been with them for so long. I mean, the people here are just amazing. It's an amazing company, at the core. And it that just shows like,
Sure. Well,
you
it's
need good leadership. You need good leadership, and good vision
sure.
and they have that,
Well, it's the ultimate marketing I've ever seen because, well, the funny thing is, of course, especially coming from the sport, when I think Red Bull, one of the last things I think of is the drink. All I think of is all the amazing
Sports
shit
is
that they sponsor.
awesome.
The
That's a lot
race,
of people. I get that. I hear that a lot when I talk to people about it, especially from the outside. It's like you hear that a lot.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
literally
Hey, you're not alone.
it's they sponsor all these things and they do F1 and they do skydiving and they do base jumping and this and that and the other thing. Oh, and they make a drink too.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Have you tried it?
yeah, right?
I know. Yeah. I mean, the can is still the king here. Can is number one. Like this is
Yep.
the holy grail. But really the athletes are kind of like second. It's like in the world of RedBull, it's like, what's most important? It's like this can is the
Yep.
most important thing. Number one. What's second most important? I mean, and I might be wrong, but it really feels like the athletes are next in line. We're like,
That's
well, the
so
can,
epic.
we wouldn't exist without the can. So like, of course the can's number one. You guys are number two.
That's
And which is
it's
awesome.
incredible. Well,
So
Red Bull actually sponsored an event that we did at Cross Keys in 2005. We were going for the most
tandem
tandems. Yeah. So We did that. We did, I think, 406 tandems in a day. Red Bull threw this massive party. They cooked us all dinner and everything. But of course, we jumped from sunrise until like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And we were turning so fast that the only thing you had time for was either water or Red Bull and a couple of Snickers bars. So by the end of the day, half of us idiots that only drank Red Bull and didn't drink any water throughout the day were dying. I couldn't even eat the dinner because I'd had so much Red Bull. I was just caffeined out of my mind. But then they threw this massive party. They had waitresses dressed as pilots and DJs, and it was fucking spectacular, man.
Yeah, they're known for that. I mean,
Yeah.
the event they put on, that's definitely, they're known for the sport, the amazing wingsuit flights or the biggest, motorcycle backflip, whatever. And then they're also known for that, I think.
Sure. Which is, I mean, honestly, as far as branding goes, I don't see that it gets any better.
Yeah, they really wrote the book. I think they've, so many companies emulate them, and and now I think it's become, it's a different game again, right? Like marketing is like, they kind of did raise that bar, and there was a bunch of years where it was just like, oh, we got to do it like these guys. And now it's a game change. And it's interesting to see how they're navigating now, because it's like, okay, like everybody's marketing like savvy and coming up, like all these companies are doing things, like outside the box that wouldn't have been done 20 years ago. But it's interesting to see how Red Bull's like, just like, okay, we gotta keep doing this somehow.
Of course. Well, and it's nice to see fun marketing anyway. I mean, you're with NZ Aerosports, and NZ Aerosports has had the best fucking tagline ever. Fuck yeah. Which I am a huge proponent of, man. Even before I had ever touched an NZ Aerosports canopy, the fuck yeah had me by the balls. I just absolutely loved it. So it's just, again, wonderful marketing. And then, as you would know, dealing with the NZ people, it's such a cool crew of people over there. It's like a little, mini version of something like Red Bull. It's this family-oriented, badass little crew that's kind of doing their own thing. Oh, and they also have an incredible product.
Yeah.
So what comes next for you? I know you said you've got a bunch of events, but long-term, do you see yourself doing this until you're old and gray?
Man, that's a good question, and it goes through my mind a lot these days, especially coming off of 2 injuries. I'm 46, and just trying to like power through that. And, it's definitely, this year has been an interesting year for me, because laying flat and just immobilized for a while kind of just put things into perspective.
Sure.
And I think the hardest thing for me to swallow was, my days are numbered. I'm closer to the end than I am the beginning.
Sure.
At this level, yeah, can you skydive till the day you get old and die? Yeah. We all know some 70-year-old something at the drop. Like, we all see that. And for sure, is it always? Yes, it's always going to be part of me. I feel like I'm part of this Sky family for the rest of my life.
Sure.
But at this level, it's definitely, that's why I'm putting in the time here, and I put in the time, and that's why I've put, what am I doing outside of the sport to better myself within the sport, and you just got to train differently. You have to be way more mindful the older you get in this sport, for longevity,
Sure.
Even if you're not having a bad crash and you play it safe, man, there's so many, the overuse injuries, like everybody feels it. Like, you go to the drop zone and every jumper out there is going to complain about, oh man, my neck, my this, my that, and what I find is very few skydivers are doing much on the back end for it.
Sure.
They're just kind of like, see them at the bar at the end of the day. And it's like, it's like, well, feel like, you could feel like that and just feel like that. And, or you could change something.
Sure.
So you can change something, and then you could also maybe gain a few more years at the end, right? At a higher level.
At peak level, yeah.
Have I peaked out? Like, maybe in some things I have, but in some other aspects, I feel like I'm still a little bit on that trajectory.
Sure.
I haven't kind of maxed over yet, but it's happening. Like, I'm in those years right now, but it's it's a tough one to swallow, and it's not easy to accept that, but at the same time, I think there's like a great like rewarding side on that end too.
Sure.
Of kind of, once I can just be at ease with that and cool with that, like kind of being on that other side of like shit, like look at this amazing career I had,
Right.
and still being involved in it, but in a different way, and kind of going into more of that, like, oh, like I don't want to say the word legend status, but like, you're like, well, legends,
It is.
like legends to me are like, yeah, like people who are like dead are legends, right? Like
Right.
you say a living legend, right? It's like we have to differ, like a living legend from a legend, right?
Sure.
So, but like being into that next category, like that's kind of cool and exciting too, of
Well, it's making
just seeing I don't know.
it's leaving your mark and knowing that you had a positive effect on the sport that we fucking love.
Yeah,
And that's what it is, really.
that's really what it is. Leaving a mark. Like everybody wants to not, you don't want to be forgotten.
Sure.
You want something to like live on from you. So yeah, hopefully, you just made a big enough impact that,
well, and I mean, it's a good tip to the young guys that are coming up to take extra special care of yourself, the young guys and gals coming up that are, really take exceptional care of yourself outside of jumping. I've told the story quite a few times on the podcast of walking across the packing mat at Skydive Arizona and seeing Sean McCormick leading a group of up jumpers doing yoga and thinking, oh, the fuck are they doing? And now all these years later, all I can think is, I wish I'd have put my ass on that mat and done yoga with Sean McCormick.
Yeah, but you got to understand, right? We were there. You got to understand the evolution of the culture, right?
Sure.
Of the sport too. And yeah, no, I mean, in the beginning, it wasn't that. Like it was jump and then drink.
Yep.
It was like beer lights on, and beer light still goes on, and there's nothing wrong with that, but.
Well, we were kind of the crash test dummy generation, for modern skydiving, and we definitely did our jobs.
Yeah. I remember first times that like guys were, especially RedBull, kind of referred to us as athletes, and like inside our team or in the community, it would just be like, almost like chuckling at it, like, oh, you're an athlete, dude, like, like.
Right.
It was like you didn't consider yourself an athlete, even as a competitor in the sport. There was like this like little weird disconnect of like,
sure,
we're not really it's like, this is just kind of for fun, like we're just having a good time,
right?
It isn't like taken to this, even if you were competing and all that stuff, it just didn't feel that way.
Well, I mean, the events and the culture that surrounded it were such a party atmosphere, and it was so damn much fun. It's tough to think of yourself as an athlete when at the end of the day, it's going to end up with God knows how many drinks and partying all night long and all that stuff. So I can understand the disconnect for sure. Yeah.
I think that's changing. I think the culture has changed a lot in this sport.
Sure.
And we're, there's still parties at drop zones and all that stuff, but it feels different somehow to me now. Like
it feels more responsible to me.
Yeah, it does. And even the level of knowledge is kind of stepped. I remember like nobody could teach us how to land a parachute. I was learning how to fly. I was like, just flair.
Yeah.
And we were figuring out the rear risers and figuring out all that stuff. No one was teaching that to us. It was like kind of like we were in that right age and point in the sport where we were like kind of evolving with this sport.
Sure. Kind
of riding the edge of that wave of evolution.
Sure.
Technology was changing, the techniques were kind of evolving, and it was when you were at that forefront of it, of like figuring out how to free fly or use the rear risers as a landing to, I was like, land with those things, like, oh, I remember the day where it was like, I'm going to start playing with the rear risers. Don't really know what I'm doing here.
Sure.
Couldn't really talk to anybody. Even if you talk to someone who was like, one of the other factory team guys, like on a canopy, one of the other canopy guys, it was like, they couldn't give you much information. They were like, give you a little bit of their experience, but, oh, this is what I've been doing. And,
Yeah.
but it wasn't so like, this is how you do it.
For sure. Well, I like you, I felt very lucky that I kind of came up in what I felt was like the next evolution of skydiving, Bill Booth and that crew being the one before us. And then as the canopy started to evolve and it started to transition into a lot more high performance and stuff, we kind of had to figure it out as we were going. It was a really fucking cool time. And not to say that now isn't an amazing time as well, because again, this progression is just insane with technology. But I think this generation that's coming up now is tapping on what we had to figure out from scratch. And they've got all of us, I should say, I say us, but what I mean is you guys. They've got you guys to follow.
Oh, yeah.
In that evolution of not just body flight, but canopy piloting, because of the groundbreaking stuff that our generation learned.
Yeah. It's, when there was a big gap. That was like now I feel like the technique is definitely more advanced than the equipment.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Where there was a time when those tri-brace parachutes came out, cross-brace parachutes, sorry. And the FX came out, where people were flying them like toggle monkey stiletto pilots. Like, they weren't flying them like the way that there wasn't the skill and the knowledge on how to fly them yet. So we had these wings that were way more advanced than the actual technique at that point.
Sure.
And then that kind of caught up. And now I feel like, okay, the level, like, I think it's a little bit more tipped the other way now, even.
I'd agree with you. I mean, I watch videos from, 4, 5, 6 years ago, maybe a little longer, when the cross brace stuff really started to take off. And I watched the flying from then and the flying now, and the pilots that are truly on top of their game appear to me to be ready for the next evolution.
Yeah. They are. They're the techniques are, they're milking everything they can out of these wings.
Everything.
Where in the beginning it was like, weren't even close yet. They weren't even close when those wings first came out. It was like, yeah, we're not even close to doing what, swooping as efficiently, effectively as we could,
Oh, the long swoops that I'm seeing now, I'm watching these canopies that are literally fading off into the distance, out of camera and barely in focus anymore. And they're just going and going and going. And it blows me away, because of course, just like you, I was around when the stiletto was the greatest canopy that had ever been made, and everybody was, toggle whipping the shit out of them. And from that to this in a relatively short period of time is incredible.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, no, it is.
So as we wrap things up, I generally ask people to give a bit of advice, especially for newer jumpers coming up. As a guy that's been with Red Bull for a long, long time and been at the top of your particular game for a long, long time, what advice do you have to somebody that's just getting started out and wants to be you in 5 or 10 years? What do they need to be focusing on?
Wear earplugs.
Yes.
Save your hearing. You need people, because the culture is changing, and you have, guys just watching the stuff online, and then they just go to the drop zone, and they're not really like investing the time as we did as like full-time skydive bums. I think the people who excel are the people who have mentors, the ones that are putting in that extra time into it, and anybody like, yeah, we got, the weekend warrior, it's hard. You got your job, you got your life, you got your family, you got maybe 1 or 2 days a week to get out to the drop zone. But, you really need to, it doesn't just happen in the plane and on the packing mat and in the air. Like, it really does happen off the drop zone, continuing to spend time with, other jumpers. And, that's really where all the real learning, I think, takes place. The core learning is just, it's kind of sometimes off the field.
Sure.
Right. Or a lot of times off the field. And, just trying to connect with jumpers and finding a mentor,
Sure.
I was very I moved to the drop zone, like I said, moved to Skydive Arizona right out of school, surrounded by world champions that airspeed and Arizona free flight, the free flight team out there at the time, Omar and Tim and Curtis. And I mean, they were warm, welcome, and yep. I had world champions looking out after me. I had a couple hundred jumps, and then if I wasn't jumping, I'd be watching them landing and, sitting there and just watching and, spending all that extra time there. And then, going out and traveling, whatever, going to Phoenix with someone, and just being together and learning, more just about everything,
Sure.
just trying to absorb all. You can't just, show up, get your 5-minute brief and then, be okay, cool.
Yeah.
You're never going to get, you might get the skills, you might acquire good skills and shred and be this amazing tunnel flyer and all that. But in skydiving, it's not just about the skill. It's so much more about the knowledge and just, the experience, building experience. Sure. And experience goes way farther in this sport, I think, than skill. Skill will get you into trouble. Because without the experience, you're going to put yourself in bad situations, and skill ain't always going to get you out, but experience will.
Absolutely.
Skill will give you a false perception sometimes of okay, I'm really good. But
yeah, you've got to have that experience to draw on. I mean, if you don't have that, again, like you just said, you're going to end up putting yourself in the corner.
Yeah. So that wasn't a real simple, short answer to your question. I would say find a mentor.
Find a mentor. And use earplugs, man. That's a sincere laugh as I sit here with headphones on and tinnitus fucking ringing in my ears.
There's a cure for it now, though. I just read about it. Yeah.
Please. Tell me and anybody else listening what
was it? It's something really bizarre too. It's eat this.
Oh, dude.
Herb or something. I forget what it is, but I just read about it that there's this breakthrough in some cure for it. So.
If you remember, between fucking 12,000 jumps of free fall and 10,000 hours of twin otter flying, I've got enough fucking ringing in my ears. Oh man. Please.
I'm pretty sure you could just start Googling it and it's out there. I don't know where I read it, if it was on the gram, follow some of those pages Popular Mechanics.
Sure.
All those science. I can't think of all the names of them now, but it must have been on the gram. It must have been one of those groups, or maybe it was Huberman podcast or one of those
Man, oh man, there's next to nothing I wouldn't eat to get rid of the ringing in my ears.
Yeah, there's something crazy though. I just read about it and I was oh wow, that's crazy. There's a cure for that.
All right, I'm gonna have to check that out. Now, as we wrap up, I want you to give everybody all the ways to follow you and to follow RedBull. Give me all the social details and everything.
Yeah, so me, mainly Instagram, just Jeff Provenzano. RedBull Air Force on Instagram, also obviously RedBull, the big channel, the mother channel of it all, on any platform, TV, RedBull TV, RedBull everything, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. But that's it. Yeah.
Nice. Jeff, I cannot thank you enough. I've been waiting for this forever, and it was exactly what I was hoping, man. It's been fantastic talking to you.
I'm glad we finally got to catch up. Sorry it took this long.
No, man.
I knew I'd enjoy talking and chatting. I always do.
I said pre-podcast, man, when it comes to skydivers, time is irrelevant, and I know that.
Right on.
Take care, brother.
Thank you.
See ya. Well, there you have it. Another episode of the Lunatic Fringe podcast brought to you as always by, well, wait, not as always, actually. Brought to you now by Gyro. Formerly known as NZ Aerosports, you'll head to gyro.com for their next level line of canopies. By Pussfoot, the Extreme Sports Collective. Head over to pussfoot.com to check it out. By Summit Parachute Systems, check out summitparachutesystems.com to talk to Jarrett Martin and the gang about kick-ass pilot rigs, rigging courses, and more. By Flyaway Indoor Skydiving, go to flyawaytn.com and check out all the cutting-edge stuff to come. By Pure Spectrum CBD, head to purespectrumcbd.com to check out their wide range of CBD products. And as for us, head to the lunaticfringepodcast.com to listen to any of the hundreds of episodes currently available, hit the link for our YouTube channel, pick up your copy of the Lunatic Fringe book or The Accidental Stripper, and get a sneak peek at upcoming guests. Once again, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.